Our grape adventure begins. The weather is beautiful today. It's September 24th, 9 in the morning. We're setting off from Istanbul. The weather is nice, no rain. We're in the final phase of the grape harvest. Today, we will take 150 kilos of Cabernet Sauvignon and then return to Istanbul with everything. We received the grapes from the vineyard, a total of 8 crates. I got 150 kilos. Before moving on to the crushing process, all the equipment I had washed, I disinfected again with a mixture of citric acid and PM. Then I immediately did the bricks measurement, 27.5. It was a very nice ratio as I expected. While I was crushing the grapes, my friends sorted out the unwanted stems and the spoiled rotten berries. The device I used is quite simple. The Grape model, known for being the entry-level blasting model, is made in Italy. Because of the sieve that is situated beneath the unwanted green stems and the leaves of the grapes, it obstructs its entry into the container. The only tiring part is handling the stems by hand later. Engaging in sorting on the sieve is a delightful job that many find enjoyable. As you can see, the grains are wide. The clusters are tight. We managed to crush them all and transfer them to my barrels within a total of 2 hours of work. Since there were 3 of us, it went quite smoothly. As you can see, after separating the grape stems that fell onto the sieve after crushing and throwing the stems elsewhere, I disinfected them again and continued with the processes. We completed the crushing process quite easily. We purchased the grapes and crushed them. As you know, we bought 150 kilos of grapes, so we have 3 50-kilo containers. Right now, the cold maceration is ongoing. This continues like this for a few days. The room temperature is approximately 21 degrees, a suitable environment for fermentation. During the crushing process, we measured the brix value at 27. It was slightly over 27. We measured the pH at 3.5, but I will measure it again shortly. Our book will estimate how much alcoholic wine we will produce. Now I will measure the density accordingly. Since we are expecting a high alcohol wine, I will use French product Lalvin brand yeast for the must. I had already disinfected all the equipment you see beforehand. As you can see here, I both added PMS and cleaned them with a citric acid solution. Meanwhile, after the crushing process, for each barrel, that is, for every 50 liters, by the way, these are 60-liter barrels, I think it's 50 up to the line, so from 150 kilograms, an equal amount of 150 liters of must was obtained. After the crushing process, I added 2.5 grams of PMS, so a total of 7.5 grams. This may not prevent them from fermenting with wild yeast, which is what I wish to see. I want the wild yeast to work for at least a few days, until the density drops by 10 points, so the grapes can release their aromas. After that, I'll add the yeast. For this, they need to work in the cold a bit. This year, I'm going to try a method for the first time that everyone knows how to do. I will try to lower the temperature to 13 degrees by using freezing 1.5-liter bottles and putting them in. Of course, it's a very difficult process. Cold maceration is important now. As I mentioned, after the 3rd day, I will use Lalvin D80 yeast. Its alcohol tolerance is very high. It has a tolerance up to 16%. We will probably measure a density over 1100 now. Let's check it again with you and see where we are now. I expect 15% alcohol. I'll measure the density. I think it's enough. I will add a little more here because I want to measure the pH again. The temperature is ideal right now since it is at 24 degrees. It will give us the correct result. It's currently at 1110. Now let's see pH. This is the blue pen. I am quite satisfied with it. I have used different pH meters, but I get very accurate results with this one. It's about 3.7 right now. The temperature is 22. I'll talk about the book soon. This is Daniel Pambianchi book. He has prepared a book like an encyclopedia for those who want to make wine at home. 3.7s, equivalent according to 0.5 molecules, is 40 ppm. The free sulfur dioxide amount should be 40 ppm. I find 3.7. I see that the intersection point is 40 ppm. This information is noted. I still see 3.7. If I pull it down to 20 degrees, I will probably see 3.6. An ideal pH. I like this. 27.0. I measured 27.2 on the refractometer, I guess. It says 27.2 is a density of 1115, 15.5% alcohol. This is potential alcohol, of course. It could be less. Fermentation might end early. Our yeast might not work. Currently, in these barrels, there is Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc, which underwent 21 days of maceration and alcoholic fermentation last year. They also had 27 bricks. I will use the same yeast. He says if 27 bricks, it would be 1114. There would be 170 grams of sugar per liter. It would also have 15.4 alcohol. We have 15% alcohol. For example, I measured 1110. The brick should be 26.2. He says the alcohol should also be 15. For sure, I won't take anything below 15 alcohol. Our pH is also stabilized at 3.7. I'll measure it again tomorrow. I don't think there will be any change, but maybe it will drop to 3.6. It doesn't make a difference to me. Even if the pH seems high, this will both correct itself and smooth out. It will come to 3.60. I will wait for the wild yeasts to work a bit. After the third day, I will add commercial yeasts. Before adding the yeast, I will also show the awakening over the must. We are on the first day after the crushing. As I predicted, there is no wild yeast activity. As you know, 40 ppm is the free SO2 level of my must. Approximately 3.5 to 4 grams of sulfur is needed for 40 ppm. Let me show you that calculation. 50 liters times 40 equals 2000 divided by 0.57 makes 3.5 grams. The amount I need to add. After the crushing, we actually need to add it at 100% rate, which is 7 grams. After crushing grapes, we need to apply a bit sulfur. I have added only 2.5 grams, which makes about a teaspoon. I wanted both the bugs to die and the wild yeast to work, albeit slowly, but it didn't happen until now. I had never wanted to work with wild yeast before. That's why I was always adding 100% at the beginning. I thought I would let wild yeast work and then add the commercial yeast. I was actually caught off guard, without any prior plan. I changed my mind and decided to do cold maceration at 13 to 15 degrees. Then I will use heat bands to raise it to 25 degrees. To lower the temperature, I put 1.5 liter bottles in the freezer, but I still can't use them yet, because they haven't frozen yet. When I checked, they hadn't formed any ice, but I'll insert them to bins tomorrow. There's no harm in waiting. They can stay like this. Potassium. Metabisulfite will protect them a little longer. See, no activity. I will gather the green grains that the sieve couldn't catch after putting on my gloves. But now I'll take another measurement. Again, we'll measure both the density and the pH. All looking good. The color compared to yesterday, right now, is quite dark. Compared to yesterday, it seems like there's a decrease. Is that a 10? It doesn't seem like it. It feels like it dropped by 1 point though. Tomorrow, when I measure it, it might come out as 1110 again. Yesterday, it was 1110 or 15. So maybe the wild yeasts have started working quietly. I don't notice it right now. Oh, sorry, I forgot to measure the pH. This is enough. We will also have seen the warmth of the must. Yesterday it was at 3.7, today it was 3.5. I couldn't understand how it went up to 3.7. The temperature is at 21 degrees. Very nice. I think I can easily lower the must temperature to 15 degrees. After that, almost a 20-day process awaits for me. I will let it cold macerate for at least 4 to 5 days and then attach these heat bands. I will provide a detailed explanation of these. They are encircling the barrel. Additionally, a digital thermometer-like device will be used to monitor this. I will explain later. I think the maceration process will be completed by next week, if I can organize cooling with those icy 1.5 liter bottles. Meanwhile, the pH is fluctuating between 3.7 and 3.8. I don't think it will go lower. I have another device and I'll run a test with it too. By the way, I haven't calibrated this one. Let me do it. I was going to do it today, but I didn't. I cleaned the pH meter. These are the calibration solutions for the pH meter. Calibrated according to a pH of 7. Now we will do it according to 4. Shit. I cleaned the pH meter bulbs with distilled water. Yes, it dropped to 3.6 now. There was an issue with the calibration. If it drops to 3.5, that would be good. It would be good because already after malolactic fermentation, there will be a drop after on the pH values. Great, 3.6 is also good. Probably after the MLF, it will settle at 3.5. This was the value I got last year too. I took it from the same vineyard. Again, density was 1110. The pH was 3.65. The Brix was 27. Again, exactly the same grapes. This year the berries were a bit larger compared to last year. Last year it was like a currant, but this year its grains a bit bigger due to the rainfall the vineyard received. Because for the measured Brix 27.5 makes the density 1110, which is strange. But I'm not an expert on this subject. Ultimately, we are engaged in amateur winemaking at home for little amounts. Anyway, 1.5 liter bottle will freeze soon. Tomorrow I'll add them and lower the temperature to 15 degrees. I'll wait for 3 to 4 days and won't add yeast. I estimate that I will add the yeast on the 5th day. Today is day 1. After 4 days, when the cold maceration is over, I will add the yeast. Meanwhile, since I constantly disinfect all my containers before and after, I can pour them back again with peace of mind. Don't worry. Let's not waste these. I did a little tasting as well. It's quite nice. The must sugar is just right. The pH has already settled at 360. I will now wash these thoroughly at home. I recommend this item. Always have it at hand. When you squeeze it like this, it dispenses water from here. Distilled water is sold like this. Today is my 3rd day already. I started on Tuesday. It's Friday, and I haven't added the commercial yeast yet. I'm trying to do cold maceration, but it's difficult. It's really hard, guys. Believe me, it's very difficult. Because I bought 12 of these 1.5 liter plastic bottles, there's no space in the freezer, and the freezer isn't cooling properly. They stay for 8 to 10 hours, but because of the supercooling effect, ice doesn't form at the speed I want. I couldn't maintain the cycle. I needed to buy 30 or 40 of these 1.5 liter bottles, which was impossible. I need to keep changing them constantly. Since a cap has formed, it means wild yeast started working. We are currently on Friday morning. I am trying new things this year. Hopefully, these new things won't cause me trouble. Let me handle these iced bottle processes first. I disinfected these with potassium metabisulfite solution. I'm actually breaking the cap right now. That's why I'm hitting it repeatedly. After breaking the caps, I will check the density to see if the wild yeast is working. It was 11 and 10 yesterday. No activity, but some cap remained. Today I only see a little foam. That much of a foam wasn't there yesterday. It's tough to handle ice work. I won't do it next year, that is for sure. I don't do cold maceration or anything like that again. I haven't been doing it before anyway. This is my 3rd year in winemaking, and I haven't seen any harm or lack from not doing it. For example, there's no cap on this. I hope the must stays fresh. I dislike bad acid. To prevent it from coming over the grapes, we actually need to keep wetting them constantly. That's why I do it this way. Even if it doesn't look hygienic, actually. I think I'm not violating the hygiene protocol because, as I said, bottles go in clean and come out clean. It's very exhausting and a process which I think I won't gain any benefit. Let me show you. Why do I think this way? We go to bed at 11 or 12 at night. By morning, even if I manage to lower it by 15 degrees, it rises to 20 degrees by the time I wake up. Now we'll see what the temperature is. Let's put it over there. I also prepared my test kit for density. I hadn't disinfected these. I wash these at home, but then here again I clean like this with PMS solution. Let it sit for a while. It drops to 19 degrees. Not bad, but not the 10, 11 or 13 degrees which I expected. Not even 15. Sometimes it happens. For example, if I dip it in here now, this place will be seen by 15, but it doesn't suit my work. If I was in a commercial production winery, were constantly monitored in steel tanks, I would have set that device to 8 or 9 degrees. The temperature of the must will be between 10 to 13 degrees. It's beneficial to let it sit like this for a week. Wine will be more aromatic, with extra flavors from the tannins. We can only experience the aromatic flavors this way. Of course, at around 25 degrees, more spicy flavors will emerge. We've always had it. Look, this is 18.4. I'm actually wasting a lot of time right now. I usually crash grapes and add PMS immediately, and the next day I would immediately add my yeast. I always took samples from this barrel and conducted measurements. 1110 there. Still at 1110. No movement from the wild yeasts on day 3, so they didn't activate. I also dislike its color. When I say I didn't like it, I mean it's not the darkness I wanted. Let's take a sample from the first barrel. Now this buckets, dippers, and so on, look, the bottoms are always getting wet. When you leave them here and there, you shouldn't put them on top of these. If we do, we need to wipe them immediately. In the end, it becomes sticky outside. Flies and bugs will come. Almost the same, or it seems a bit darker. I think it's noticeably a bit darker. It's 1110. Alright, there is no activity at all. I will not have any problem if I don't oxidize the must or something. For the high pH value, I hope it will become a device error. It came out 388 with sensitive pH meter. The readings are 3.7 and 3.8 with this one. It immediately settles at 3.8. Very high. The pH is high. This is not what I want. Oh, I would have expected 365 from a must with 1115 density and 27.5 bricks. Since I'm not a viticulturist, I don't want to comment on the product coming from the vineyard. Yes, I will continue not adding yeast. They held up well until the 3rd day. I think I failed at cold maceration too. I think I can start the fermentation after all, because keeping it like this is not hygienic at all. It could get contaminated any moment. Yeah, I need to keep wetting the caps constantly. These are difficult tasks. I'm constantly dealing with these things and washing and doing. I want to just throw in the yeast and come 2 or 3 times a day to break the cap, and I want to get into this process. After the pH test I just conducted with 2 devices, I am now sure that it will not go below 3.8. I need to intervene before fermentation. I know this. I only have 100 grams of tartaric acid on hand. I placed an order, but it didn't arrive yet. Why am I adding tartaric acid? Because I want to decrease pH from 3.8 to 3.6. To make a rough calculation, I want to lower the pH from 3.8 to 3.6. 1 gram of tartaric acid in 1 liter reduces the pH by 0.1 unit. I have 150 liters. I want it to drop by 2 units, so there are 2 units from 3.8 to 3.6. Therefore, I need to add 300 grams of tartaric acid, which is 150 times 2 units. I need to do this before adding commercial yeasts, because if I do it after fermentation, the yeasts will confuse, which will adapt to the high pH values due to malolactic fermentation. And if I make an adjustment afterward, outcome will confuse them for sure. It's a very simple process. I'll take some must from the bin. Tartaric acid. We'll add it to the must and mix it well. Where I took the bottles out, that it is below 13 degrees, but Now I will try other places. Let's see if the same values we will see everywhere. Yes, it turned quickly to 12. Here is 14. I'm looking to see if there's something that has settled at the bottom. Yes, there is. It is a difficult chemical to dissolve. I will add a bit more juice. Now it's slightly better, I think. We are on the 5th day. I'm very sure that finally the wild yeasts have started working because quite a bit of cap has started to form. There is also carbonation. The temperature has already reached 24 degrees. On Tuesday, we crushed the grapes. So the first day is Wednesday. Today is exactly the 5th day. It's time for fermentation. Now, we will do another cap breaking. Afterwards, I will measure the current sugar. Let's measure the density. This is the PMS solution I made before. My cap breaker will stay here. Who can tell if the yeast not working here? The wild yeasts are on the stage until Friday. With 1.5 liter cold waters, I got temperature down to 15 degrees with frozen bottles. As you can see, it's foamy. I'm sure the wild ones are working hard. And by the way, the tool is so handy. There's a handle right there. Industrial and strainer. I got it. It needs to be rust proof with food grade welding to bring it to this shape. It's quite risen. I will attach the heat bands. I will stabilize the temperature at 24 to 25 degrees so that the yeasts work finely. Just look at that foam. Looking good. The color has become quite dark. Alright, let's do the sugar check on the 5th day. Yeasts working quite well. It was 1100, exactly 1100 or around 1098. It's 1095 density. I got what I wanted. The wild yeasts worked for 2 days. I think we've added beautiful aromas here for 5 days. A very nice color has also developed. The tannins have matured. The color of the must like this now, as you can see. I will start the fermentation period shortly. I've attached the heat bands. Let me show you. Each one has 2 different colors, but the logic is the same. I bought these from Amazon Turkey. Right now, for example, they are very hot. The cables come from here, like this. Of course, there's the main display here. It has a very simple setup. It shows 22 degrees. That cable's are going over here. So I buried this inside the bin. There's a metal tip. It measures the temperature. Inside temperature is 22. I want it to be 25 degrees. We're setting it up right now. It's heating up. The heater is on. Electricity supply is connected. I placed my heater here with a 6-way extension cable. Everything is automatic now, friends. I won't do anything. I'll just monitor it here. It will probably settle at 25 this evening. It's essential that this stays within the must. If the temperature could rise by even 1 degree until I add the yeast, that would be good. Yeast always work better in the heat. The 5th day turned out to be a beautiful day for me. Everything went as I expected. The taste is quite good. The smell is quite good. All of them. I don't separate any of the 3. The pH is around 350 to 360. I was measuring 388s, but probably when I took it from the top layer. I've never been so vigorous in mixing before. I think the top layer had a slightly higher pH and it dragged me to make a mistake. Thank God there was only 100 grams of tartaric acid in hand and I applied only 100 grams. I shared 100 grams equally to each of them. I believe I had dropped it by 0.8 units. The While thinking I had reduced it from 388 to 3.8, I mixed the must. I measured the pH again, and it came out to be 3.5. Maybe I reduced it from 3.6 to 3.5. Right now my measurements show 3.6. It's quite normal for this to be very variable. My guess is it's 3.6. The final pH will be measured after malolactic fermentation. We will measure it again after MLF is over. Let's prepare yeast. First, I will wake the commercial yeast up. Then I'll transfer the yeast here. See you then.